Hello and welcome to today's Partner Infopedia web conference. This is Dynamics 365 Fast Track Tech Talk. Today's topic is field service. Presenting with us from Microsoft today, we have Dean Hardy, who is a Senior Fast Track Program Manager. Now it's my pleasure to hand you over. Dean, you now have the floor.
Thank you, Debbie, and good morning, everyone. In today's session, we're going to cover these agenda items as they pertain to the Microsoft Dynamics 365 field service application, with the intent of highlighting the core functional components and process flows. So we're going to talk a little bit about the field service overview, customer management, work order management, schedule and dispatch, mobility, customer billing, and analytics. And at the end of the session, we hope that you'll come away with an understanding of the core components of the Dynamics 365 field service application, and that you'll have learned how the core components work together to provide the end-to-end field service functionality. Okay, to begin with the overview. So we're going to follow a fictional medical device servicing organization through their digital transformation in our discussions today, as they use the Dynamics 365 field service application to provide service to one of their new customers. We're going to talk about service agreements, scheduling and dispatch, inventory management, the mobile application, a little bit about connected field service, and the how that wraps into the customer service experience. So although field service system users come in many different types, for our discussion today, we're going to concentrate on these common field service related personas to help us understand the field service application from each perspective. We have listed some of the most common use case scenarios here alongside the personas in order to begin to define their roles and responsibilities, and we'll drill down into more detail as we progress through the session. Okay, so to begin with, field service is an application available in Microsoft Dynamics 365 Customer Engagement Platform. It's an end-to-end solution providing functionality that enhances Dynamics 365 to enable management of your field service operations. On this slide, you see some of the key field service personas and functions of the end-to-end business processes for field service organizations. So in the remainder of this session, we're going to break down each of these process groups from customer management through analytics into additional detail, again, enabling you to see how the core field service functionality is typically used. So once the field service app is installed in your environment and your user is provisioned with the proper field security role, you'll find that the field service tile is available in your menu bar. In this slide, you can see menu items for much of the core functional components of the field service application. As we begin to explore the customer management topics, let's begin by navigating to an account record. Okay, in today's scenario, as a user for our medical device servicing company, we have just obtained a new customer, Contoso Hospital. Our sales team has just closed an opportunity with Contoso Hospital to provide routine maintenance services on the MRI machine located at the hospital. In preparation for providing these services, we begin by setting up Contoso Hospital as a service account in our system. When the field service app is installed, you will find a new tab named Field Service on the account form. The fields in the tab enable downstream work order processing capabilities and should be filled in on all of your field service account records. In the accounting system related section of the tab, you'll find the billing account and tax exemption fields. And selecting a billing account here will tell the system to use the mailing address from that billing account record as the address for any invoices that result from work performed at this service account. When the billing account field is left blank, invoices will be generated just using the mailing address directly on the service account record here. As you can see here, service invoices for work performed at Contoso Hospital are going to be sent to Contoso Healthcare Administration. In this section, we can also indicate whether service work performed for this service account will be taxable or not, using the tax exempt field. In the services section of the tab, we can select the service territory that this account falls into. All work orders generated for this service account will inherit this service territory from here, helping us to choose resources from the same territory when scheduling the work orders. Also in this section, we can define the type of travel charges, if any, that will be added to work orders for this account and specify account-related instructions that we want to appear on the work orders, such as where to park or how to check in with registration before beginning the job. Now, there are a couple other important field service account items that aren't shown on our slide or currently. The first one is the geocode of the location of this service account. The geocode consists of the latitude and longitude GPS values that allow the app to know exactly where work will be performed. The geocode stored on the service account then will be inherited by all of its work orders, allowing us to efficiently route the resources to the location during the scheduling and dispatching processes. The system can automatically add the geocode to the service account using the address that you enter. Right? And then to see the geocode values or update the position, use the geocode menu up here in the ellipsis menu in order to see what the latitude and longitude values are or update the position directly on the map using the map pin. And then lastly, we want to ensure that each service account has both a default currency and a default price list assigned to it. These will be required in the work order products and services that we sell during the work order process. And by specifying the values here, it will save the field agents a lot of time by not having to enter the information manually for each product or service that they add to a work order. Right? So that's about it. Now that we have a service account record set up for Contoso Hospital, let's go ahead and create a customer asset record to represent the MRI machine that we'll be servicing. So right from within the Contoso Hospital account form that we were just looking at, we can find the related records page for customer assets. And from there, we click add new customer asset record. So customer asset records represent specific serviceable items that are associated to a particular customer's service account. So we'll go ahead and create an asset record named X12 MRI machine. With this asset in place, all of the service work that we do on the MRI machine will be related to it, and we'll be able to see the chronological records or service history right from this page. Also notice that assets can be grouped into hierarchies so that we can see the sub-assets or components of the MRI machine. Right? In this case, a speed handle and a patient monitor. In addition, with the connected field service app, you could link customer assets in Dynamics to the Microsoft Azure IoT suite, enabling the ability to receive real-time telemetry data from sensors connected to assets directly into Dynamics. Right, then when exceptions or anomalies are detected, the system could automatically generate work orders and dispatch field agents to resolve the issues. Now let's go ahead and set up a service agreement for Contoso Hospital so that the system will automatically be able to generate the work orders according to the terms of our agreement with Contoso Hospital. Okay. So again, we can navigate to Contoso's agreement records right from the account form by clicking the down arrow in the top menu next to the account name. And this exposes the related records. And from there, we choose agreements from the list. So the agreement record specifies the service accounts and the term or duration that it spans. Since we sold Contoso Hospital a one-year maintenance agreement, we'll set up the term for 1 year. Notice that the billing account automatically populated since we set it up on the account record before. So therefore, all service invoices will be addressed to Contoso Healthcare Administration. Agreements come with a copy function that allow you to easily renew an agreement for subsequent years when needed. And this feature can also be used to quickly create other service agreements for other service locations for the same or different billing accounts. So once we have the agreement header set up, we have to add what's called a booking setup to tell the system what types of work orders it should generate and how often it should generate them. We can create as many booking setups as we need under the same agreement record if we would need to perform different types of work on different frequencies during the same agreement term. But in our case, Contoso Hospital just wants to perform an MRI inspection on a monthly basis for a one-year term. So let's take a look at how we would set up the agreement booking setup. So this is the booking setup for Contoso's agreement. In the work order settings section, we tell the system whether or not to automatically generate the work order for us, the type of work order we want it to generate, how many days in advance of the desired service date, what priority the work order should have, and the text that we want in the work order summary field. In the booking settings section, we tell the system whether or not we want it to also schedule the work orders for us, what the expected duration of each service will be, and whether or not we have any flexibility from the specified service date each month. So in this example, we specified the service date as the 15th of each month, and the customer has indicated that it would be okay if we perform the service up to 10 days before or after the 15th. In the preferences section, we can specify that we prefer to be scheduled to, we can specify the resource that we prefer to be scheduled to perform the work, as well as the preferred times of day that the customer would like us to be there. Once we have filled in the information and saved the booking setup record, we can add one or more agreement incidents to it. The incidents will tell the system what parts and labor we normally expect to use on one of these services, the procedural service tasks that we want our field agents to perform, and the skills or characteristics that the field agents should possess in order to be qualified to do the job. And we're going to talk a little bit more about incidents in just a little while. So once we have all of the information specified on the agreement booking setup, we'll use the recurrence button to specify the frequency of the services. Much like setting the recurrence in an Outlook appointment, this tells the system how often to generate work orders for this agreement booking setup. In our example, Contosa wants a monthly MRI maintenance inspection, so we'll set the recurrence to monthly. So that concludes the discussion of the core components of the customer management topic, right? The service account, the customer asset record, and the service agreement. Before I move forward to work order management, let me just pause for a second to see if anybody has any questions about what we've covered so far.
No questions so far, Dean.
All right, we'll keep moving along then. So as we begin to look at our work order management processes, it really helps to define the work order life cycle in some simple terms like this, right? We receive a service request, we schedule the work order, perhaps notify the customer, and we complete the work, collect the payment, and if relevant, close out the work order. So as you think about deploying the field service app in your organization, you'll want to begin by defining sort of the core flows that are right for the type of field service work that you do in your organization, and sort of lay them out in a process flow similar to this. And from there, once we have defined the life cycle in its most basic form, as in the previous slide, you can begin to add more detail to it as you see here, doing things like identifying the typical sources of the incoming service requests and what the processes are around those, and then listing the typical activities, steps, business processes, or logic that are performed by users along each stage of the work order's life cycle. This will really help as you begin to think about what the business requirements are that are unique to your organization and how to go about implementing the field service application to address them. So now we're going to take a look at work order record. So work order records really are the heartbeat of the field service application. And the information contained in the work orders is really critical to operating a successful field service operation. So we're going to dedicate the next few slides to reviewing the work order information and discussing its importance. The first thing you'll notice about the work order form is that it comes with an embedded business process bar at the top. The default process is used to define the stage that the work order record is in at any given time, and you can modify the process bar to meet your organization's unique process steps if you need to. In the summary section, in the summary tab, we see the general section. Right, this section contains the auto-generated work order number, the required service account, a billing account, the system status and corresponding substatus, and a brief description of the work to be performed in the work order summary field. And the system status field is the key field in this section. The work order system status values are preset and cannot be changed. The values are unscheduled, scheduled, in progress, completed, posted, or canceled. And for the most part, these status values on the work order will be automatically updated by the system as you complete other actions. For example, when you create a booking record, the status moves to scheduled. When the field agent indicates that he is on site, the value changes to in progress. When the field agent indicates he has completed the booking appointment, the work order status moves to closed. Even though you cannot change the system status values, you can create your own corresponding substatus values. This allows you to use your company's unique labels and match them to your unique processes to indicate where the work order is in its life cycle. So as you can see from the example, we have created a substatus here named Ready for Dispatch, which is the indicator we use to let the dispatcher know that the work order is ready to be scheduled in our example. Next, notice the section called Primary Incident. Remember, we spoke about the use of incidents when we were setting up the Contoso agreement previously, and we'll drill down into more detail on incidents in just a moment. But for now, it's important to point out that incidents can be defined as the specific jobs that we are going to perform while completing the work order. And each incident is a package of parts, labor, service tasks, and required skills needed to complete that particular job. Each work order can contain multiple incidents if necessary. Notice the incidents grid on the right-hand side of the form there. But we refer to the first one that we enter as the primary incident. And that's what the information on that is what you'll see in that primary incident section. The work order incident records are where we calculate the expected work order duration from also. And it's also where we associate the customer assets that we'll be working on so that we can track the service history for each asset, depending on which incidents we perform to that asset. So as we saw when we set up Contoso's MRI machine asset on the previous slide, notice that this work order contains the MRI inspection incident because this work order was actually generated by Contoso's agreement that we created before, which specified the job type or incident that we'll be performing for the customer. Let's scroll down to the next section of the work order form, which looks like this. Here you'll see the total section here, which shows us the estimated amount. So this amount will be the sum of the estimated parts and labors that were added to the work order. As the field agent changes the status of the parts and labor items from estimated to used, the system will then calculate the total billable amount of the work order, which can be transferred to the invoice when the work order is posted. Notice the bookings grid on the right. Bookings are the appointment records we create when we schedule a work order to a particular resource or field agent. Many times we can complete the service work in one visit. And so we would only then require one booking appointment in that scenario. But if we need to send the field agent on multiple visits or send more than one field agent in order to complete the work, then we would create multiple booking appointments to represent each of the service visits. This separation of records, work orders, and their child bookings gives us a great deal of flexibility in the scheduling and dispatching processes. The Settings tab has a number of sections in it. The General section contains the required work order type field. You specify work order type values to meet your organization's needs. They are designed to help you sort of categorize the distinct types of work that you perform for reporting purposes or to isolate different business processes that might be unique to each type of work that you do. Also notice how the other fields in this section were inherited from the Contoso Hospital Service account that we set up earlier. The Preferences section here is where you'll specify the time to schedule this work order within. There are three separate methods for specifying the booking time preferences. The time to and from promised fields are meant to define a duration of time that the work should begin within. So this works well for specifying the preferred start time range that is within a single day. Right? The date and time window fields work together to allow you to specify a date range and the corresponding time window in that date range. So in Contoso Hospital example, you can see the agreement booking setup specified the preference as any day between the 7th and the 25th of the month, and between 7 a.m. and 3 p.m. on any of those days. And then the third and the last method used in the preferences is called time groups. And this method allows you to create blocks of time. For example, a block of time defined as morning and a block of time defined as afternoon. And then all you have to do is specify the group as the preference for the customer as you're creating the work order and preparing for dispatching. Okay, next let's scroll down a little bit further again on the work order form. So these tabs contain work order service tasks, work order products, and work order services. To start with, the work order service tasks are commonly used to specify the procedural steps that you want the field agent to follow as they work to complete a job. And each service task can include an estimated duration of how long it should take and the ability to mark it as complete once it's done. Next, the work order products tab lists the parts or materials that are expected to be needed to complete the work. When we add the products to the work order ahead of time, because we know that this job normally requires them, it saves the field agent time by not having to add them manually in the field using the mobile application. So you can see here that the parts are added with a line status of estimated. And if the agent does not need to use the parts, then they can simply be left there with the estimated statuses, and they will not be calculated into the billed amount. If the field agent needs to use the recommended part, they just change the line status to used and ensure that the quantity, pricing, and default warehouse are correct. Work order services then are used to specify the labor charges that we're going to add to this work order. It's a very similar concept to the work order product, except services are not inventoried, obviously, and they use a default duration of time as opposed to, such as minutes, hours, and so forth, as opposed to just quantities that you would use for parts. Scrolling down a little bit further, the bottom portion of the work order form contains the address. This would be the service location address, the geocode, latitude and longitude related to that address, and then a map of the service location. So remember that the geocode is important to field service operations because it allows the system to calculate the travel times in order to optimize the resource usage while minimizing travel expenses and non-productive time. So again, this information was inherited from Contoso Hospital's service account that we set up earlier. If you need to adjust Contoso's default service location just for this work order, all you have to do is enter a new address here. You can use the geocode button in the ribbon menu, or you could simply just drag the map pin to the appropriate location that you want to identify as the service location. Now that we have covered all the important information contained on the work order record itself, let's see how the system uses that information to prepare for optimal scheduling processes. Okay, in our scenario, we are in the process of scheduling this MRI inspection work order for Kotosu Hospital. But it's important to note that the field service app allows you to schedule just about any time, any type of record if you needed to. For example, you could set it up to schedule bookings for workers related to a project from the project service app, or schedule salespeople to meet with prospects as they close a sales opportunity. We call this feature the Universal Resource Scheduling feature because it allows you as an organization and your dispatchers to have sort of a unified experience no matter what type of record they're scheduling against. Right? And the field service app accomplishes this unified scheduling experience using a record called the resource requirement. And that's what I wanted to explain to you here. For work orders, you can see that the system automatically creates this resource requirement record for us. So as we filled out the information on the work order, you can view the data on the work order's resource requirement record here by navigating to the related records page here and then drilling down into it. Take a look at what that resource requirement record looks like. So as you can see on this slide, all of the work order information that was pertinent to the scheduling process has automatically been copied to the resource requirement record for us. Right? As we move to the scheduling process, this will allow the dispatcher or the optional resource schedule optimization engine to make the best decisions when deciding when to schedule the job for and whom to schedule it to. All right, I mentioned previously that we were going to talk a little bit more about what we call incidents. So let's take a moment now to drill into the topic just a little bit further. So again, incidents are meant to define the standard types of jobs that we perform in the field service operation. So in Kotosu's case here, they perform a lot of MRI inspections. So their system administrators have pre-created an incident type as a template to store all of the information related to that job. Since these job templates or incident types have already been set up for us ahead of time, it makes it really fast and easy for them to be added to a work order, saving the user a lot of time while automatically populating the work order with most of the necessary information that it's going to need to be completed. Okay. So the incident type or job templates then contain the estimated duration of the job, right? Which is going to be best beneficial to know how much capacity we're looking for from the resources when we go to schedule the work order. It contains the procedural service tasks that we talked about before, the estimated products and services, and then also the characteristics like skills or certifications that are required by the field agent, to perform this job. As you begin to set up your field service application, you'll want to take some time to create some of your own incident type records to get a sense for how this functionality works, and so you can see the benefit of using them within your work order setup and scheduling processes. Okay, next I just wanted to touch on the subject of inventory. So the field service app comes with an inventory and purchasing capabilities. And these capabilities include things like purchase order processing, inventory management, and merchandise and vendor returns. The functionality can be used as a standalone module, or you can typically integrate this to your accounting, ERP, or other systems that you may already be using to process inventory. The important thing to note is that having accurate inventory information within the field service app allows your field agents to perform their work without having to use multiple systems. It increases the efficiency and accuracy of your service billing. And if your organization uses inventory in the services that you perform, you'll definitely want to explore the inventory and purchasing capabilities of the app in order to optimize your field service operations. And then one other topic that I wanted to just touch on briefly before we move into the next topic of schedule and dispatch. So I wanted to briefly mention how Dynamics portals can also be used in conjunction with the field service application. Right? The Dynamics customer portal can provide customers with a 360-degree view of their work orders, agreements, assets, and invoices. And customers tend to feel empowered about their service experiences with your organization because all of the information about previous and upcoming appointments is stored in the customer portal. And they can quickly reference it when they have questions that arise, or perhaps use the portal to schedule their own appointments. The Dynamics Partner Portal is commonly used to enable subcontractors that aren't employees of your organization and don't have access to your Dynamics 365 system to view the work orders that you've assigned to them and perhaps to update the work order status and completion information when they're done. So again, the Dynamics portals are licensed separately from the field service application, but they can provide a lot of added value to your customers and partners. So be sure to explore the Dynamics portals if you're thinking about setting up the field service application. All right, before I move on to the schedule and dispatch topic, James, is there any questions, or from the audience, is there anybody that would like me to review anything that we just covered in work order management?
No additional questions, Dean.
Wow, all right. Let's move on then. Okay, so the next topic is schedule and dispatch. Right? And the field service application allows for 3 different scheduling processes, and we call those manual, semi-automated, and with the optional RSO app, fully automated. Let's begin by exploring what we call the semi-automated scheduling method first. The semi-automated scheduling method uses a feature called the scheduling assistant. It's used to schedule one work order at a time, and it assists the dispatcher in making the best decision when choosing the date, time, and resource to perform the work. The scheduling assistant can be accessed directly from the work order form using the book button in the ribbon menu up here, as shown in the screenshot, or can be invoked from the schedule board window directly from a resource requirement record. When the Schedule Assistant button is pressed, you'll get a separate browser tab that is opened, showing the Schedule Assistant window. Looks like this. The Schedule Assistant includes a filter pane there on the left that is pre-populated with some information from the work order and can be modified as necessary to search for the most appropriate resources and time slots to book the work order to. Schedule Assistant filters include available duration, resource proximity to the service location, preferred start times, preferred resources, service territories, and skills. And then once we have the filters set as we want them, we simply press the search button on the bottom of the filter pane, and the scheduling assistant will perform the search for us. The scheduling assistant then returns a list of resources and different time slots that meet the filter criteria. The dispatcher can review the search result information returned, concentrating on things like estimated travel time or date and time in order to make the best decision. Once they make the choice, they highlight the row and click the Schedule and Close button, or the Schedule a New button if they need to create multiple bookings for the work order. For example, if they wanted to assign more than one resource to go out and complete this work. The schedule assistant scheduling method is useful for organizations that have a larger volume of work orders and resources and that are concerned about maximizing work hours and reducing travel time. Now let's take a look at what we call the manual scheduling method. So this is a picture of the schedule board, and this method uses the schedule board feature of the field service app, right? The schedule board allows the dispatcher to manually schedule the work order by simply dragging it onto a particular time slot, thereby choosing the resource and the time to schedule the work order into manually. In our Contoso Hospital example, the dispatcher is taking this month's MRI inspection work order and scheduling it to the resource Edgar Dominiquez for 11:30 on the 8th. The manual scheduling can be effective when there are lower volumes of work orders and resources and you don't have a lot of constraints such as resource skills or specific time windows or travel efficiency concerns. All right. Next, we'll take a look at the, excuse me one second, there we go. So for organizations that have large volumes of work orders and resources, along with many different scheduling constraints, Microsoft offers the Resource Scheduling Optimization, or RSO app. This allows for fully automated scheduling, and once installed, the RSO can be configured to continually optimize your company's service schedule, including the stream of new service requests coming in, along with the existing bookings, in accordance with your specific goals, such as minimizing travel time, maximizing completed work, meeting SLAs, minimizing overtime, assigning the most capable resource for a job, or prioritizing customers appropriately. It's a pretty powerful tool, and again, if your organization has a higher volume of work order throughput, you'll definitely want to investigate the optional RSO application. So next, the schedule board here is highly configurable, right? And it can accommodate many, many different types of scheduling scenarios that you may have. For example, the schedule board can be configured to display a map of the resources, current location, and the routes that they'll be taking during the day to help a dispatcher decide which resource may be best to handle an emergency job, and where in that resource's schedule they should place it to optimize the route while still accommodating the customer. In addition to enabling manual scheduling capabilities, the schedule board is also used to visually display the progress of jobs being worked on. As the field agents conduct their work and update the status of the bookings, the color of the booking on the schedule board will update accordingly. So in this slide, you can see that the morning's bookings are green because the field agents are on site performing the work, except for the one which still shows the status of traveling, even though you can see by the blue line that it has already passed its estimated start time. And so this would be a visual indicator to the dispatcher to perhaps proactively contact the field agent or customer in order to assess the situation and proactively make the appropriate decisions before the schedule gets too far out of control for the day. And not only is the schedule board highly configurable, but you can save various configurations as separate tabs. So in this screenshot, you notice that the tabs in the top right corner, and you can see, our schedule board currently has two of them, one called Initial Public View and one called Schedule Board Number 2. And by creating multiple schedule board tab configurations, your dispatchers can quickly change the layout to suit the particular scheduling scenarios that are important to them and the types of work orders that they're trying to schedule at that time. Right, so that wraps up the discussion on scheduling in dispatch. Let me pause for a moment to see if anybody has any questions that they want to pose to us.
No questions right now, Dean.
All right. Even if they didn't type them in the window, it'd be an opportunity for anybody to type one in now, so don't be shy. We've got plenty of time to cover your questions. And we are going to do a Q&A session at the end as well, so we'll have some time there to recap any issues if you'd like. All right, moving on to the mobility section. So the Dynamics Field Service application comes with a companion mobile app that is available to download from the Android, Apple, or Microsoft app stores. Now, although field agents could use a laptop in the field and access field service through the browser, like internal employees normally would, it's often more convenient for them to use the field service mobile app. The mobile app is enabled for touch-sensitive devices, such as tablets and phones, and can be used in an offline mode when a cellular or internet connection isn't available. When a connection becomes available, then the mobile app seamlessly syncs the data between the server and the mobile device so all field service employees can stay up to date. The mobile app can be easily configured by your system administrators to accommodate your unique field service needs, but here we'll look and review the standard configurations. When the field service agent opens the mobile app, the home page displays a list of menu choices along the left-hand side. The default dashboard displays the agent's assigned bookings, along with a pie chart broken down by work order type. You also see menu choices here for accounts and contact information. And, all of this information regarding accounts and contacts and bookings, work orders can easily be filtered to meet your specific requirements so that field agents don't have to carry around a full copy of your database information, but only the information that's pertinent to the work that they have to do. Right. So field agents will normally spend a lot of time in the bookings menu here. But when they here they'll find a list of their assigned bookings, which can be displayed in a simple daily list or in a day, week, or a monthly calendar format here. Bookings can also be viewed on a map from the home page in order to see where the service locations are that they'll be doing work for today. So when we drill into a particular booking record on the mobile app, we can see information from both the booking and work order records. So the thing to note is that all of the work order information that we reviewed earlier can be made available to the field agent in the mobile app. Although often we limit some of the information and the number of fields so the forms are not too cluttered while still providing all of the relevant information that they need to complete their work. As the product and service labor are consumed, all the field agent has to do is change the status from estimated to use, as we talked about earlier, and perhaps update the quantity or the warehouse if necessary. Customer asset information is available from within the work order also. So in our example, the field agent has access to all of the relevant information and service history for the MRI machine that we've been talking about in our example. Next, you can see that activity records can be created right from within the mobile app. So this can ensure a seamless collaboration with team members or customers when necessary. In addition, the field agent can easily capture notes on the work order, including photos and videos as needed. And then customer signatures can be captured, payments can be recorded as the work is completed. So again, that's a brief overview of the mobile side of the application. Again, it sort of mirrors the functionality and the information that's available in the browser application. And it's, again, highly configurable for your specific needs to make it fit with the processes that your field agents will be performing. Any questions on the mobile application before we moved into the customer billings topic?
Dean, we didn't have any questions on the mobile application, but we did have a question about product integration. The question was, is there a product integration between sales and field service?
Well, that's a great question, and thank you for that. And yes, there is. The thing to note there is that the field service application uses the same product catalog as opportunities do. And so all of the products that you make available in your product catalog can also then be consumed through the work order processing. The one difference that the field service application adds is inventory tracking. Whereas without the field service application, we don't have an inventory table in Dynamics. But with it, we have then the ability to track the quantity of the products that we have and in which warehouses they're located. All right, so let's move on then to the customer billing section of today's presentation. So it isn't mandatory, but it can be common for many field service organizations to do an administrative review of the work order before it's finalized and posted. The process might include things like checking to make sure the proper parts and labor have been included, updating the descriptions, the findings, making sure that the notes are properly written up, making sure that the totals are accurate. And once the review process is complete, the system status is then changed to closed posted here, which can optionally cause an invoice record to be generated and the work order to be deactivated, which would make it read-only. So really a pretty simple step from the process perspective. It's only changing the status to closed posted. However, it's the internal review processes within your organization that you might want to consider when you're thinking about what your processes will be to sort of close out a particular work order record. Okay, moving to the next slide, talk about the invoicing capabilities of the application. So when the MRI inspection work order for Contoso Hospital is posted, the system generated this invoice. It includes labor for the MRI inspection service, a gradient coil, a lithium battery, and a travel charge, as you see here, for a total of $1,593. And as you can tell from following our example today, these were the items that were set up originally in our MRI inspection incident type and then specified in the service agreement, which automatically included them in the work order for the field agent to consume. So it is possible to create an invoice report from this record in the field service application, but many field services organizations will just transfer this information back to their accounting system in order to track the financial aspects resulting from the service work. So this could be accomplished by setting up system integrations, or some companies just do it through a manual export from Dynamics and an import into their accounting system. Now let's take a look at the revenue and cost information that the system produces for us as a result of completing and posting the work order. Right? So as field agents performed their work and updated the status of the work order, the system tracks the amount of time they spend traveling, working, and on breaks. Then these times are then used in conjunction with the agent's pay rate to calculate the costs of their time against this work order. And that's displayed in the actuals list. When the work order is marked, and that happens when the work order is marked as posted. Then when the invoice is marked as confirmed or billed, the system will add the billed amounts that correspond to the parts and labor that were sold and used in the work order. The result is that we end up with a consolidated list of all of the revenue and costs from each completed work order that can be used for profit analysis, reporting, or accounting integrations, as we mentioned before. All right, so now let's move on to the last topic of the presentation for today, and this a brief discussion about analytics. Okay. So the number of service-related metrics and KPIs, can often be as varied as the organizations themselves. But we have found some commonality among different organizations in focusing on these KPIs, as the system can often focusing on these KPIs, the system can offer the greatest performance increases in these areas that you see on the slide. So if you're familiar with Dynamics 365 at all, you'll know that there are many different ways and capabilities for you to generate views, charts, dashboards, and reports, and to monitor the information that you're most interested in. Right? So you're not stuck with the out-of-the-box analytics that may or may not suit your particular needs. But as you begin your journey towards implementation of the field service application, be sure to know what your unique critical business objectives are and how you would like to track the metrics and monitor your KPIs, right, in order to achieve them. Because as you know, nothing will drive operational improvements as well as a clear set of goals that everyone in the organization can focus on and strive for. So what I want to show you in the following slides are really just some sample dashboards that we took some time to create from the field service data that the application collects and what we reviewed today. But again, I want to encourage you to think about being able to create your own individual types of metrics and KPIs with all the power that the Dynamics platforms gives you to do so. So this is an example of a field service productivity dashboard. Right? In it, we show on-time resources, which shows the difference between estimated arrival time and actual arrival time. show the average difference in duration, which displays the difference between estimated duration and total billable duration, right? How well are our estimated incident types performing in the real world, for example? Average time to schedule by scheduler, which displays the difference between the time that the work order was created and when the booking was created. So you can see how fast you're getting new work orders onto the dispatch board. Next, let's take a look at some profit and loss charts, right? In this dashboard, we have on-time resources, which displays the difference between estimated arrival time and actual arrival time. We've got average difference in duration, which displays the time between estimated duration and total billable duration. Next, we have field service revenue forecast. So this shows us some examples of work order profit and revenue forecasts by scheduled and unscheduled work orders, and then estimated product and labor costs by scheduled and unscheduled work orders. And then lastly, some field service volume dashboard sample charts. And this would give us a count of scheduled and completed work orders over time by type and by resource. So again, just some samples there of things that you can do. Using your imagination, you can come up with the metrics that are unique to your particular organization. And as you know, you can create the charts, the dashboards, or the Power BI type reports that will suit your needs. So that concludes the general topics that we had for today's discussion. As I mentioned earlier, we do have time for a Q&A session. And so I'll pause here to see if there's any questions. Otherwise, I'll hand it back to you, Debbie.
Dean, we do have one question. The question is, can we use Power BI to generate a customer report using field service data?
That's a great question, and the answer is yes. More and more organizations that are using the field service application are also licensing the Power BI and using some connectors to be able to pull the information that they need into Power BI and use those more advanced visualizations that tool has in order to keep track of their KPIs and metrics. So yeah, thanks again for asking that question so that everybody can hear the answer. Anything else?
Yes, follow-up to that. Do you have a content pack readily available for field service in Power BI?
No, that's a good question. I know that was in progress. I haven't checked recently to see what the status is. If you're familiar with Power BI, you should be able to go and search to see if they've completed that yet. If you don't see that, be sure to follow up with your Dynamics Fast Track Program Manager, and they'll be able to source the status of that content pack for you.
All right, at the moment there are no other questions. So folks, I would like to call your attention to the survey link that I posted in the messages window. Your feedback is very valuable to us. We appreciate you taking a moment to fill it out. Click the link, enter your email, you'll be taken into the survey. There's 5 questions and our voting scale is on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being the best score possible. Be sure to click on the submit button at the bottom to ensure that your feedback has been received. And with that, Dean, I will turn it back to you. Any final words before we wrap up today's event?
I'd just like to take a moment to thank everybody for attending, and we look forward to further discussions with you in your Dynamics Fast Track programs. Thanks again, and have a good day.
Awesome. Thanks, Dean. So, ladies and gentlemen, that does conclude today's Partner Infopedia web conference. Again, the recording will be available at the same registration site within 24 hours. I'd like to extend a big thank you to our presenter, Dean, and thank you, audience, for logging in and joining us today.